Do you know what's new for nurses? What about dementia and caregiving? Are you looking to grow as a leader? And what are the current healthcare leaders doing for you? Welcome to the Angie Graham Podcast. Today's episode isn't an easy one, but it's one we all need to hear. You're about to meet a mother who has walked through the kind of pain most of us cannot even imagine. Losing not one, but two sons to addiction and overdose. This isn't just a story about grief. It's a story about strength, about faith. And you're going to learn what it takes to never give up on yourself, on others, and on having hope. You'll hear Sheri talk about her journey from addiction to 25 years of sobriety. As you listen, I want you to think about the strength that it takes to tell your truth, even when it hurts. That's when healing starts and where leadership begins. Welcome to the Angie Graham Podcast, a space where we hold honest conversations about hard things, loss, love, resilience, and everything in between. I am Angie Graham. Today's episode is one of deep heartbreak, but also of deep courage. We're joined by a mother who has endured what many can't even imagine, losing not one but two sons to overdoses. This is not a story of grief, but it is also of strength, remembrance, and of raising awareness about a crisis affecting so many families everywhere. We are honored to share her voice, her story, and her heart with you today. Also with me in studio is Ben from River City Recovery, Community Recovery Advocate and Sober Living Program Director. Please take a breath with us as we begin the conversation with compassion, respect, and open hearts. Welcome, Sheri, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
My hope is that your story helps others. Can you tell us a little bit about your boys?
My boys. I had identical twin boys in 1982, named Tony and Jesse.
Okay.
They were born premature. I was only 6 months and 3 weeks pregnant when I had them.
I was going to say, you're a little lady to have twins.
And so they came unexpectedly. I did not know I was going to have two babies either.
Oh.
So Jesse was hiding, and voila, and there you have that.
Okay. How old were you when the twins were born?
19.
Young.
Yeah.
Young for one baby, let alone two.
Yeah.
So that was that a lot of work?
Oh,
Or you
gosh.
you just adapted to it pretty quickly?
You do. You know, mothers, I think it's an internal instinct to care for your children.
Okay.
Although at that age, being pretty young for that whole scenario, I wasn't ready.
Sure. So fast forward a little bit. Where were you living, or where did you live while you were raising the boys?
Okay. We moved around a lot because of my alcoholism and my addiction.
Okay. Was that something that was generational? Did you grow up in that as well?
You know, I grew up in a middle-class home. My mom occasionally drank. Alcoholism does run in the family. Being a DiMartino, which goes back to the Greenbush in Madison, yeah, my grandfather passed at 54 of cirrhosis of the liver.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean...
It's our culture in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
back in that day, you know, it's just even in the 30s, you know, my family was very involved in bootlegging, all that in the Greenbush and Madison. So we come from a long line of alcoholics.
Okay. So raising the two boys, bringing them up, you moved around a lot. And so they seen a lot growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was 16, I started smoking weed. Mm-hmm. And that just escalated. I didn't drink when I was pregnant with them, but I continued after they were born, and it seemed like I picked it up a lot harder than where I was to begin with.
Okay.
You know, they say you pick up where you left off. Well, yeah, 20-fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad.
Yeah. So fast forward, how did you first become aware that the boys were using?
Oh, geez. Think when they were probably 15, they came home from school, and I don't know exactly how that happened, but they had a joint, and we shared it. You know, if they were going to get into it, you know, I wanted to make sure that it was safe. Oxymoron there, but you know, I wasn't alcoholic. I wasn't an addict. You know, and I was being their friend, not a parent.
Well, once again, our culture, you know, sometimes tells us that's the stuff that we should do, and you know, we and to be honest with you, you know, the drugs of today with the fentanyl in them, you know, I mean, it's in the weed today, it's in everything.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, that's a parent could even lose their life very simply, you know, trying to be safe with their kids.
And I think even when I was growing up and even when my kids were growing up, there were parents that I'd rather have the kids just drink at home. Just drink at home so they can be safe. And I think there's the intention of doing good. But statistically, children that use or drink with the parents have a higher risk level, is my understanding. Would you say so, Ben?
Yeah, kids, I can't just spout the number off the top of my head, but kids that use with their parents, and even more so kids that use or drink with their grandparents, especially ones that are at risk, you know, to having the alcoholism or drug addiction, you know, in them, are much higher risk of ever being able to stop.
So at that time, with the pot, and when did it accelerate from, or how did it accelerate from there?
Well, you know, I think because when they were 16, they went to school and complained about their alcoholic mother. And so they went into the foster care system, I want to say till they were 18.
Okay.
And I think it's when they left the foster care system, it escalated at that time.
That had to have been really tough on them going into the foster care
Oh,
system.
absolutely. You know, there was just no I don't know how to say it. It's like they were more at that time separating the families than keeping them together.
And were you able to visit them during that time that they were in the foster care
Yes.
system?
Yep, I was.
A lot of that's changed now today too. They
Yeah.
tend to try to keep the parents in the home or the children in the home.
The families together.
Yep, and they try to coach the parents through it. You know, just for reference, how long have you been sober now?
Oh, 25 and a half years.
25 and a half years.
It's
Congratulations.
amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. It's amazing, actually. It was bad. It was bad. I think when I want to say 28, the disease really took a turn for me. I ended up on probation and parole. And so I decided, as a good addict, that I was going to go to something that got out of my system a lot quicker, so
Sure.
I wouldn't get caught, drinking or smoking weed. And so it turned into cocaine at that time.
I completely understand. That's the only way I could hold a job is and literally that's why I turned to it most of the time, because it was out of my system quick enough for a drug test, and that was amphetamines.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the mentality is so distorted,
It is.
to say the least. It's so broken.
How was y'all's relationship with the boys after you got sober?
Oh, wow. They,
'Cause that changes everything.
it really did. It changed a lot. Tony and Jesse, they were so proud of me. They truly were. Tony got to see me clean and sober for 5.5 years before he passed away.
Sure.
And what a gift.
Yeah.
What an honor. To be honest, I believe the Creator knows everything. And I believe that He knew that I was ready to do something different and placed a 12-step program right in my lap. And therefore, there was the old timers, he put the people in my life, a 12-step program in my life, to give me some guidance and some tools to use, knowing what I was about to encounter in my life. Not me,
Sure.
the Creator, and what a gift. What a gift.
And so you said Tony got to see you sober for 5.5 years. So he's been gone 20 years now?
Oh, yeah. Tony passed September 18th of 2005. He was 23 years old.
And he overdosed on...
So Tony was a pretty big drinker. Mm-hmm. He also, come to find out, he liked magic mushrooms. Was probably one of his favorite highs, to be honest. So Tony ended up aspirating in the end of 2004.
Okay.
And I took him in after he got out of the hospital. There's nothing like walking into a hospital. I was just telling Ben this before we came in here. There's nothing like walking into a hospital room and seeing your child hooked up to everything in that room. The hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with. And unfortunately, that became a familiar thing for me. And it was sad.
So where did the strength come from to stay sober during all of this, during this time?
Well, coming into recovery, there was a lot of old timers, and the old timers that were around when I came in, you know, they ran around in the Vietnam War. You know, those guys didn't mess around. And I remember Big Jim slamming his fist on the table.
Oh, Big Jim, I remember him.
And saying, do not drink or use no matter what. I don't care if your ass is falling off. You just don't pick up and use. And, you know, he drilled that into my head.
Mind you, you're 4'10", and he was 6'11", if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Just a mountain of a man.
Yeah. And you know, for some reason, I hung on to that, no matter what. And so that was one of those situations, no matter what. And of course, at that time, I'd been around recovery for 5.5 years. And I started using the tools that I'd been given. Acceptance. I think one of the greatest things that I learned early in recovery was acceptance. You don't have to like the given situation. That's okay.
Right.
But you have to accept it. That was huge. When they told me that I didn't have to like it, sweet.
Right.
You know, and really those are the couple of things that I remember pretty clearly. And then the one other thing. Oh, my goodness. So, a wise old man once told me, you know, Cher, they sit around these tables, meaning AA, and they talk about all that faith that they have. And when shit hits the fan, he goes, that faith goes right out the window. And he looks at me and he goes, you know what they were missing? And I'm looking up. No. He goes, they were missing that trust in that faith. And I heard that for the next 5 years on a regular basis, because it's not that I'm dumb, I just need things drilled into my head.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when I found Glenn passed away, I was sitting on the porch that weekend thinking about all the things that I was taught. And the trust in faith was, that man gave me the key to this, what he would say, silly game called life.
Right.
Because to me, there's nothing bigger than that.
Well, you know, when you're caught up in active addiction, you don't really have a choice. You know, but when you're caught up in sobriety, you have a choice. You know, you just have to find a way to make that good choice. You know, and you're right. It's those little tidbits from different people that you grab that keep you there.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. And that was a no matter what scenario, for lack of a better analogy, you know.
So life changed forever, losing Tony. Yes. How did that dynamic change with you and Jesse then at that point? So them boys, I imagine being twins, were quite connected. So what did that look like?
Wow. Just wow. Bringing me back to a lot of feelings.
Pain.
Whew.
Take your time.
So, in my situation, The furthest thing from my mind actually was drinking or using or picking up.
Okay.
I had platters full of stuff I was dealing with. I needed to end my son's life.
Yeah.
And I got caught up in, well, what happened? I wasn't there, you know. What happened? What happened? And you just get so focused on all that. What really happened? I don't know what happened. You talk to the detectives, you know, you go into this witness program thing, even though you weren't there. You know, these are the people that you have to deal with, and that's just the beginning, really, truly. I mean, you're trying to process all of it, and you're ending your child's life. He had his own apartment. So you have to clean out an apartment. You have to wow. You have to get a hold of the cell phone company. You have to get a hold of G&E. You have to get a hold of all these places and all these things. As you have deadlines at the funeral home to meet every day, you know. And thank God my mom was by my side. And Jesse, you know, we all grieve differently. And he was out there. I wouldn't see him for a couple of days. And he'd come by the place and, you know, God, I remember when he found out and I told him that Tony was going to be cremated. And he snapped. And I said, look, don't you think I want the best funeral for your brother? Do you have any money, Jess? You know, they're not cheap. And so, yeah, we went round and round about that as I'm trying to empty out an apartment and plan for a funeral. And yeah. Then, 10 days after Tony passed away, and not too many people know this, 10 days later, it was a Saturday, and I was, I got up, and I was looking at Tony's computer that I now had, and I look up at the screen, and the screensaver came on it, and I was just bawling at the end of my bed, and it said, move the flippin' mouse. Actually, I'm laughing. And I'm looking at the screen, and I'm just going, oh, hell no. You know, and I got up, I got in the shower, and I went to a meeting. My mom lived by the clubhouse, so after the meeting, I went over to her house, and I got a phone call. I got a phone call from a hospital. Now, Jesse went down to Illinois Friday. This is now Saturday. And the phone call was from my brother that Jesse was in a coma in the intensive care unit on the south side of Chicago.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
And I dropped the phone, and I picked it back up, and I hung up on my brother, and I called the hospital. And sure enough, Jesse was in a coma on the south side of Chicago, 10 days after burying his brother. So now I'm finding myself on the way down to Chicago, and my mom said, yeah, you're not going by yourself. I don't know how we ever made it. I drove. How, I don't know. We get there, and yes, again, walking into a hospital room where your child is hooked up to everything, and nothing but my car around me was familiar. I went with a clean pair of underwear.
Oh,
stuck down there for 10 days. Here he had blood clots on his lungs. Couldn't move them. On the 10th day, I finally walked in to the room again and talked to the doctor and said, hey, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Would you release him so I could take him back to Madison? And they did. They released him, and I told him, I promise, I'll take him straight to wherever he needs to go, And so we did that. Yeah. Same person. Okay, so Jesse and I got stuck. He had to, when he came back to Madison, he had to go and have an EKG done. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when we went to have the EKG done, I was looking for my watch. There it is. The doctor that was doing the EKG actually was delivering a baby, and we were stuck in a 10 by 10 room for hours. That's when it came out for the first time. He told me that somebody had given him, somebody had given Tony methadone. That was the first time I had heard, because obviously the toxicology reports weren't back yet. That's the first time that I heard that this guy that Jesse went to Illinois with had given Tony methadone 10 days before.
And for a drinker, that's a terrible, deadly combo.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So,
and that's the guy that Jesse was hanging out with.
And that's the guy that Jesse was hanging out with.
Twins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He almost killed the other one, too.
Not having the power of choice.
Tony was always the leader anyways. Jesse was always the follower.
Yeah.
Always.
Did Tony come out first?
Yes. Actually, I had a C-section, so 1 minute apart.
Sure.
2 pounds, 12 ounces, 2 pounds, 13 ounces. I was going to say that earlier. I forgot. A little nervous, so. But, it's sad.
It is. So Jesse must have came out of the hospital eventually.
He did. He did. I don't even know when the heroin came into place with him. It was when he started dating some gal. So I didn't even know that he was doing heroin. That was quite a few years later.
Okay.
Tony had been gone, I'm going to say 11 years or so. Tony was gone 11 years when I lost Jesse.
Okay.
And Jesse had been battling the heroin for probably 3 to 5 years at that time.
Sure.
Guessing. And
of course, nobody knows the real truth except for them.
right.
You know.
I noticed it in 2015. Oh my gosh. 2015, I'd seen him at Christmas time. And I didn't see him. I seen him a couple times before that, but I didn't see him for like 4 or 5 months. I didn't even recognize my own son. His eyes were sunken in. the black dark circles gone. I mean, it was just horrible. I looked at him and I said, "What the f- happened to you?" Because he can't, and he's going, "What, Mom?" And I'm like standing there in shock because I had gone over to the house where he was living in, and I didn't recognize my own son. And of course, he's going, "What? What?"
I did the same thing with my brother. Came around me, and I hadn't seen him for a year, and he's 150 pounds lighter. You know, telling me that everything's great. Can I borrow some money? You know.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, what do you do? Give him the money.
The transformation, you know, when it happens, when you're living it every day, you don't see it, you know. But like I said, I didn't see him for like 4 or 5 months, and it's just like, I was in shock, straight up shock.
Now, Jesse, I know Jesse seen a little bit of recovery, you know, and I know that he was trying, and I felt like he was sincere, you know, but, you know, it's the draw of the disease and not having those key tools sometimes, you know, it's just, it's just crazy.
Jesse had the tools. Jesse didn't want to die.
No, he didn't.
He
was
didn't.
full of life.
He was full of life.
Yep.
What Jesse didn't do. Okay, so he got into so when you overdose and the police are called, the paramedics and police are called, you get charged with possession of heroin. That's what happens. And because of that, he had to go to an IOP program. And
Intensive outpatient.
yeah, court ordered. That's what happens. That's what they have to do. And so for that year, he started seeing, and then he had to see a professional. And he was put on Suboxone, which he knew how, I was just against it, but it kept him from sticking a needle in his arm. Bottom line, it did. And Jesse stayed that way for a year, and he graduated from IOP, and they expunged his record. He was so happy. I actually have the message still on my phone. I listen to it every now and then. Damn it. And after he graduated from IOP, that was like June 16th of 2016. And we had plans to go up north on July 22nd. And I couldn't get a hold of him very often. He just was not answering my phone calls. I didn't know that he was back into the heroin. He was using Suboxone. He was getting it from a dealer. So we went up to the cabin on July 22nd. We had a big fight just before going up there because he wanted to stop at dude's house, which I didn't know what was going on. I should have known what was going on, but I didn't. And then we went up north. We put everything aside, our fight and everything, and we had a good time. Just before we left from up north, we knocked on my mom's cabin and went up to the loft and said goodbye to her. And not knowing that that was the last time that she was going to talk to her grandson. And Sunday we came back. I dropped him off. I seen him post on Facebook on the best time that he's had in a long time. And he got a hold of somebody that night. I don't know, but he was gone by morning, passed away. He relapsed. And by the way, there was no fentanyl in it. I had them check, because fentanyl is such a big thing. And,
Sure.
But there was no fentanyl in the dope that he shot in his arm.
But when you've been away from the actual dope for so long, the quantity, everyone is just at such high risk when they go back out of an overdose, and this month is Overdose Awareness Month, That's why we thought it was so important to tell this story, even though there's many. This one kind of hit close to home,
And you knew Jesse. So when you get this news too, when you're working with people and you see that potential there, there's always that risk.
Oh, yeah.
It's always the thing you worry about when guys leave the house.
Yeah, because they're used to doing a certain quantity, and they think that they can still handle it, or they seek it out, or they use a little and it doesn't quite get them there, so they go for what they used to know, and it's like a light switch, and death occurs, quite often within that. And, I wish there was a safer way or just a different way, if they were going to use, I just wish there was a different way.
That they weren't alone or someone would be around.
Yep. But usually a lot of shame and guilt is built within all that,
You said, you had asked me about Jesse that last year, and he was going in and out of meetings. He
was charismatic, and he had a lot to say, and very enthusiastic. I remember when he graduated from ILP, how enthusiastic he was. And I see a lot of guys, they finish the ILP, they finish the drug court, and just recently I had a guy just finish his stuff up, and he did the same thing. Luckily, he did not die, He is, he put him right back to square one. He's on the street, but he's fighting to come back right now.
Well, Jesse, that last year, I can tell you what he didn't do. Jesse couldn't get honest.
Sure.
He couldn't find a higher power. And he was full of fear. Fear of being sick. Those three things. And without those three things in recovery, you don't have a chance. You need that higher power. You need that trust in that faith.
Right.
You know that no matter what, just, wow. The fear, though, you could see it in his eyes.
So now,
His face.
after you experience the loss of your boys, how'd you stay?
Oh, you get those tools from recovery, and a lot of people say that they're suggestions.
Right.
They
Directions.
are directions, absolutely. And it's reaching for that higher power He's doing for me what I can't do for myself. What's normal? What's normal for me to do? What's normal for me to do is to pick up and drink or
Right.
pick up and use. That's what's normal for me. It's not staying clean and sober.
Right.
You know, it's far from that. But, you know, even when I came into recovery, it was just like I felt people were betting on me. The old timers, she ain't going to make it. Or the people that I used to hang with at the bars, yeah, I knew she wasn't going to make it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
all that playing in my head, you know, and stubborn that I am, it's like, yeah, nope, not today. And this one day at a time, yeah, no, too long.
That's
One-
where I was, too.
One second at a time. I had to break that day down.
That's where I was, too. I felt like people were taking bets against me, so I quit telling them how good I was doing. I figured I'd just shut up and show them.
Yeah.
What keeps you going now?
Oh, what keeps me going now? So, oh, wow. So, I'm going to say that going through what I've been through with the deaths of Tony and Jesse Sparks, you know, I got a phone call from the funeral home. Right after, oh geez, I can't remember. It must have been after Jesse passed. It was. Anyways, the funeral home called and said Wisconsin State Journal had contacted them and wanted my number. Well, they couldn't give my number out. And they wanted to do an article because of the way I had written the obituary. And that I had put that he had lost his battle to heroin. Because people weren't putting that in these kids' obituaries for the longest time, and they died unexpectedly or whatever they were writing. And I pulled my mom aside, and I told my mom, I need to put this in the obituary.
Help break the stigma.
Right?
Because if it was cancer, they might put, you know, died of leukemia or whatever, you know, lost their battle with cancer. And, you know, society doesn't accept substance use disorder as a disease.
You know, my mom.
There's a stigma
Yeah,
against it.
yeah. My mom was a very prominent woman, and she worked at DMV, head of revocations, for years. And so I had to pull her aside and say, hey, I'm putting this in his obituary, Mom. I have to. You know, so I gave her a heads up before I did, even though she was right by my side. But gave her a heads up that I needed to put it out there because people aren't. And so Wisconsin State Journal did contact me, and we did do it wasn't just me, it was a few other families. They did a big article in the Wisconsin State Journal. I didn't know that they were going to have me on the front page, though. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that was, wow. I just think back on some of the stuff. But what I was going to say prior to that was in 2021, I had a series of strokes. And I was really busy with working and trying to help my mom on the north side of Madison. I live in Portage, Wisconsin. And I ended up, of course, going through their deaths. I didn't take anything. And, you know, they wanted to prescribe me stuff. It's like, yeah, no. And, you know, I felt I had to feel it all. But how much can the human body take before something breaks? and something broke. And I had strokes in 2021, which was sad. Kind of skipping around a little bit. I have a brain injury, that I have to deal with every day. I can say that I have had dreams come true in recovery. I mean, my bike was a 25-year dream.
Yeah.
I went from being homeless, sleeping under bridges, because I couldn't afford a vehicle, to becoming a homeowner and making some of my dreams come true with the help of my Creator, because it would have never happened.
I've seen you reconnected with your granddaughter.
I did.
Tell us about your granddaughter.
Oh, my goodness.
She's beautiful.
Thank you. We were a part of Lily's life for the first 3.5 years. Every other weekend, we would just about have her out, almost every other weekend. And we had a tragedy that had happened with our family, with my mom. And I ended up helping Mom. And that's the relationship that took a hit, was Jesse's daughter. Jesse had a daughter. And so, my mentality was I'm either in her life or I'm out. And after so many years, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to fix the relationship. Loss is all too familiar in my world.
Sure.
Wow. And her mom called me in January. A couple of times we were on the phone, and we went out to dinner, and that's what materialized was the relationship with my granddaughter. So out of all this darkness, I got this blooming flower coming up, and her name is Lily. She's awesome.
Good.
She has some of her father's mannerisms and traits. It's like...
And did she just graduate high school?
She did.
Okay.
She did, and I kind of was taking her out driving so she could get her driver's license, and her mother would tell me, "Boy, you have a lot of guts." Yeah, but she did good.
Patience.
I do have a lot of patience. I really do anyways, and they really came into play throughout a lot of this stuff. What do you
have
do?
Been generous with your time and helping others that are suffering with the sickness of addiction.
I've always said, starting from early in recovery, is if I could help just one person, it would be worth all that crap I went through using and drinking. Trying to come out the other side. To be honest, I'm still trying to get through the pearly gates. Okay, guys? Yeah.
And that's definitely why we do what we do. Somebody took the time to help us. So it's our job to take the time to help someone else, whether they make it or whether they don't, because they are dying from a disease which there's no known cure.
Right. What a gift. I say that a lot at meetings. What a gift and what an honor, to be a part of something so big and so great. Jeez.
There's so many families that have suffered with the loss of loved ones to addiction. I believe the statistic in 2023 was 100,000 in the United States had lost the battle to an overdose. I believe it was down a little bit in 2024. I was looking, I believe it was 75,000. But still, that's a lot of families. And the more we talk about it and the more awareness and the less we can stigmatize it. This is, I see it even before I met Ben, dealing with it in the workplace. In these small communities that we are in, which are very small communities, it's unbelievable how prevalent it was and how much we dealt with it as an employer in our communities. And so how do we break this cycle? And it's by talking about it. How do we heal people? It's by talking about it. Instead of the stigmatism that would go along with it. It's by having the conversation and truly like you say, the gift of helping others. And that's why we set out to do what we've done for people is while you can't lead anyone. They have to have their own journey. But helping others is truly a reward and a gift.
Yeah, I've had parents call me about their kids.
Sure.
What do I do? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I know that I've done love. I've known to do tough love with my children, and they're still gone. And they weren't ready. Tony's was more of an accidental situation. I think overdose is.
Well, I don't think Jesse intended to take it that far either,
No.
No way. He was too full of life and excitement. But what they say is jails, institutions, or death, or recovery if we want it, But what does that mean? Oh, it's such a broad brush stroke, of how to get there.
Well, it's the insanity.
Yep.
Old man Glenn used to talk about being in sober insanity.
Sure.
Because recovery doesn't promise us an absence of conflict with life.
That's true.
It doesn't. Although it does place the people and the tools that we can use to get through. Like in my case, some of the most tragic things that I will ever have to have gone through.
Well, I know your story has helped many get through grief and overdose.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for coming in and telling your story. And what a powerful story it is. And my hope that this story now will reach so many more and help so many more. And I believe it will. I believe that the Lord has blessed you at this time with the message. And I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, there's many community resources to reach out to. You can certainly contact rivercityrecovery.com. They operate sober livings for individuals that are oftentimes coming out of a recovery program. You can visit recovery.com. We had Tom Farley in not too long ago talking about that. And just within the county, you can contact Human Services building in the county near you, and they do have avenues to help those that are suffering from addiction as well. So I want to thank you for coming on the program today and telling your story, and what a powerful story it is. Thank you also, Ben, for coming on and
Thanks for being
talking.
here.
Oh, yeah.